The Lake Isle of Innisfree by William Butler Yeats. William Butler Yeats, more commonly known as W.B. Yeats, was born in Dublin, Ireland in 1865. He was educated in London and was an instrumental figure in the defining years of the 19th century. Yeats wrote both poetry and plays. His early plays were focused mainly on interpreting Irish legends and his own personal spiritual beliefs. Later in his life, after 1910, his work took a turn, becoming more experimental and poetical. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1923, and during the last 16 years of his life, from 1923 to 1939, he published a number of volumes of poetry containing what is now considered his best work. The speaker in the Lake Isle of Innisfree spends most of the poem deep inside a daydream. He speaks of Innisfree in an idealistic way, describing the almost magical qualities of the different times of day and the unbroken solitude and peace he will achieve once he goes. It is revealed by the end that the speaker dreams so intently about reaching Innisfree because he lives in an environment that does not contain the natural elements that are critical to his happiness. Now, children, let me explain stanza 1 for you. The speaker begins by telling the reader of his intentions. He will arise and go now to the Isle of Innisfree. In his first line, the word go is repeated twice. Yeats made this choice to provide special emphasis on the importance of the speaker's action. The speaker is determined he must and will go to Innisfree. The second line provides additional details as to what he's going to do when he gets there. He plans to create a small home for himself. The use of the word small in this line gives the impression that he is going to be the only one living in the house without any family or relations of any kind. He plans to build the cabin from clay and wattles, sticks and rods. Once he is living in his small cabin, he dreams of having 9 rows of bean plants and a hive for presumably many honeybees, as in the next line, the glade or small clearing in a forest is filled with the sound. The second stanza provides the reader with the reasoning behind his desire to travel to Innisfree, to find some peace. This stanza also contains the important metaphorical relationship that Yeats sets up between the notion of peace and nature. He describes peace as dropping slow from the vales of morning to the crickets. Yeats relates peace to morning dew. In the glade he will be surrounded by it, from the leaves on the trees to the grass on the ground, where the cricket sings. Continuing on, the poet describes 3 more times of day and the magical qualities they possess on the Lake Isle of Innisfree. The imagery calls up sequences that further emphasize the importance of the daydream to the speaker. Midnight glimmers, noontime glows purple, and the evening is full of the beating of linnets' wings, a small brown and grey finch with a reddish brown breast. Now, children, in this last stanza, it is at this point in the poem that the speaker shakes himself out of his daydream, in which he has described the scenes on the Lake Isle of Innisfree, and begins to address the real world. Once again, he states he is going to leave for the isle, reinforcing the importance of the other uses of go in the first stanza. This constant repetition of an action of leaving his home to create a new one presents the question of, is he actually ever going to go? Has his dream been something he is now going to realize? Or does it only exist in his mind? Yeats continues the stanza by telling the reader that the speaker hears the water lapping at the shore all day and night. It is now evident that the speaker is wishing to escape a world that is antithetical to his ideas of peace and happiness. It seems that the speaker lives in a city, or at least somewhere in which he is surrounded by roads and pavements, both of which are not classical manifestations of nature. The poem concludes on a very somber note. The poem's last line, "I hear it in the deep heart's core," refers to the sounds of the waves lapping on the shore. The haunting images of the lake isle of Innisfree are heard not in his head but in his heart. The reader is left with unanswered questions regarding the reality of the speaker's plan to go now and to go to Innisfree. Will the speaker ever make it from his current home to the peace he needs to achieve happiness? Or will he remain in his city or town, stuck in a fantasy daydream he will never realize?